Good morning, vinyl champions. Thank you so much for joining us today for another edition of Coffee and Vinyl. Good morning, vinyl champions. Thank you so much for joining us. I had to mute my YouTube, and sometimes it never comes on, and other times it does. So, hey, good morning. Thanks to coming to number 28 of Coffee and Vinyl. And everyone, I'd like to introduce to you Tim. Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Doing well. Just drinking some coffee, hanging.
Absolutely. Cheers, Tim.
Cheers.
So Tim is joining us this morning as our guest, and we're gonna talk about some vinyl. But let's go ahead and welcome some people here. Good morning, Carol. How are you? Cheers to Carol.
Cheers to Carol.
Yeah. What better way to start your day is with coffee and vinyl. I like that. Absolutely, Carol. Good morning, El Camino. Cheers to you. And then, of course, Carol says good morning to the El Camino. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Sorry for late start. It was me. My portable computer, the battery had lost its charge, so I had to restart again. So there we go. Good morning, J.S. Bond. Cheers. Yes, I think J.S. Bond has been on the road and been traveling, so I'm looking forward to hearing all sorts of good stories, and hopefully soon you can swing by and we can get caught up. But yeah, thanks for tuning in this morning. Yeah. There we go. Good morning to Tim from El Camino.
Good morning, El Camino. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So hey, thanks so much for joining me today, Tim. I really appreciate it. I know that I've known Tim for a couple of years now, and Tim loves the vinyl, and I've learned so much from hanging out with Tim and cool things like that. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and give yourself a little introduction there, Tim?
So like you said, I've known Adam. I was digging for records in Raleigh, and I was trying to find cool record stores, and I went to quite a few of them, and so yeah, I love records, and I was looking at a more eclectic selection, so that's how I met Adam. And yeah, I mainly love jazz records, and I love everything really. Jazz records, that's something I focus on, but I listen to a little bit of everything, and yeah, I don't know. I'm a little crazy about the audio too.
Oh, absolutely. Raleigh's got some wonderful record stores, and if you're into one genre of jazz, you cannot help but learn about other things and learn about other records, because when you're flipping through new arrivals and you're like, what is this? Even though it may not be jazz, it definitely catches your attention. That's for sure. The next thing you know, you're learning about this rare psych record. Why is this record priced $140? And you want to know why.
Yeah, for sure.
Good morning, Adam. How are you? Thank you for joining us. Cheers, Adam.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is a similarity with jazz records and psych records, and punk records and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the people all seem to be into the same thing as far as that. They're pretty open-minded about that, so that's cool too.
Yeah. And what you can learn from really cool jazz records, you can learn from very cool rock and roll records. I mean, it's yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, Tim, did you grab some records to share with us, and we can start talking about that? Hey, let's welcome Stephen Batten here. Good morning, Stephen. Cheers, Stephen.
Hey, how are you doing? Yeah, I brought some cool little odds and ends. I have a lot of jazz, but I have a few other things I've been digging in my new collection because I sold off my old collection, so I'm starting this thing back up here. So bear with me, Rome wasn't built. But this is a cool record that I thought some people might not be familiar with here. It's a 70s jazz record. Is that, sorry, the glare. Yeah, it's called Glass Bead Games by Clifford Jordan. And it's on the Strata East label. Are you familiar with that label, Adam?
Not yet.
So this is a 70s. This is a really cool picture too. This is a 70s jazz record, and a lot of it's kind of spiritual jazz on this label, but the originals of these records go for hundreds of dollars. So yeah, there's this company called Pure Pleasure, and they've been reissuing these last year and this year, and yeah, they're just they're far out, man. This Clifford Jordan record, he was big in the 50s, but he kind of got ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd argue this is probably one of the best. I don't know if you can see the label. It's pretty cool. Kind of like a sunset.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, in my opinion, this is probably one of the top 5 jazz records of the 70s.
Wow.
You know?
The back cover reminds me a little bit of Yoko Ono's record.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, the back cover.
See that.
Oh, got a gatefold.
Yeah, there's this cool abstract. Oh, and a fun fact is, you're familiar with Spike Lee? I imagine, the director.
Yeah, absolutely.
His dad plays bass on this record.
Wow.
And he composes a lot of the tunes on it too. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. I was turned on to it a few months ago.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So the thing about jazz is people tend to focus on, you know, the blue notes and the impulse, and they kind of just look at jazz like it died in 1965. There's a lot of really, really hip stuff, you know.
Yeah,
and hip stuff, you know.
Yeah, and there's lots of good jazz that's been recorded today, new jazz, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think about The Comet Cometh. I mean, you know, they're jazz, but they got some other craziness.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
They're great. They're absolutely great. But yeah, but if you guys ever see Strata East records,
let's put that in the comments. Strata, Strata.
Strata, yes.
East. Is that 2 words or 1?
It's 2 words.
Okay, cool. Strata East. There we go.
Yeah. But yeah, really cool, like I said, kind of spiritual jazz. You know, that's what they call it, you know.
Yeah. Who are some of your favorite spiritual jazz artists, groups? Tim?
Wait, say again?
Who are some of your favorite spiritual jazz groups or artists?
I would say Pharoah Sanders. I'm sure you're familiar with Pharoah Sanders a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The Karma record is really great. See, it's interesting because a lot of those 70s records kind of go in that spiritual direction. Pharoah Sanders is definitely one of my favorites. Charles Tolliver is really good. You know, John Coltrane, you can argue. You know what I mean? You could argue spiritual jazz.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. It just kind of helps someone that may not be as familiar with spiritual jazz to get some type of understanding. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Pharoah Sanders, the Karma album, I think.
Very cool. Yeah. I like some Pharoah Sanders. I love the one he did with Alice Coltrane.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. Yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Let's see what else I brought to the table today. I actually wanted to highlight another record I was listening to this morning. Actually, I probably wouldn't have pulled this, but I was listening to it this morning, and it kind of ties in with the whole spiritual, you know what I mean, jazz thing. Yeah. But I'm sure maybe you're familiar with Forest Flower.
Oh yeah, I think I have a copy of that record. It's very good.
Yeah, it is. And the cut that I was listening to that blew me away today was called Sorcery. And yeah, this band is pretty crazy. You know, you have Keith Jarrett and you have Cecil McBee, which has a great record on Strata East, by the way. That's how it ties in. And Jack DeJohnette on drums. And yeah, but this tune was called Sorcery, and it's him on flute, and it's just really great. Because in jazz, it seems like flute can either be really cheesy, really cheesy, or or it can be really just far out. And yeah, Charles Lloyd's definitely one of the good jazz flute players. Uh, and also, he came out with a record last year for his 80th birthday. He's still jamming, still getting it. I have that record as well, and yeah, it's his 80th birthday concert, and he's playing with some new cats. And I mean, to be honest with you, he's better than he's ever been now, and it's just
Wow,
amazing to watch him. It's amazing to watch him
that
at
is
80
awesome.
years old or however old he is, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah, eat your fruits and vegetables, kids. You know what I mean?
So the Charles Lord you showed, was that an original or is that a current pressing?
Uh, I was looking for a clean original, but you know, with the whole, I've been trying to build my collection back up during the quarantine. Uh, you know what I mean? Which,
Absolutely.
which isn't a good time to try to build your collection up. So now this is a reissue, but it's a nice reissue.
Okay.
It's a speaker corner, analog tapes, cut by Kevin Gray, same guy that
Hmm.
does the Tone Poets and Music Matters and all that.
Right,
So
right, right. Well, very cool. Yeah.
yeah,
Say hello to
so
Squirreled Away. Cheers, Squirreled Away. And Squirreled Away wants you to check out Bill Evans.
Oh, I love Bill Evans. I love Bill Evans. I actually, funny you mentioned that. It's not vinyl. I just found a copy of a Bill Evans box set, his last Village Vanguard 1980 recordings. And
Wow.
wow, good. It's really good. Yeah, I think it's a month before he died. It's beautiful music. It's just great.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just great. It really makes you. It's almost it's almost sad to listen to be honest. But I love Bill Evans. He's definitely one of the best.
He is, and I like the most mellow Bill Evans you can find. I like it when he takes you somewhere. It's just like the cover of, I can't recall the name, but the girls floating on the water. Uh,
Mm,
just that visual.
yeah.
Oh, it's just amazing. It's amazing. Oops, sorry. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, no, no. If you ever see that box set, it's called "Turn Out the Stars,"
Turn
and
out the stars.
it's yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful music. I love Bill Evans, and also recently, I don't know if you're probably familiar, Adam, with all the record store day stuff, but have you seen those Resonance Records putting out those live Bill Evans sets?
Yeah, yeah. I brought them in. I didn't keep any of them, and they sold pretty quick. I think Final Champion Donald got one of those. I need to reach out to him. I really want Donald to be on here one morning, but
Uh,
I respect. But yeah,
yeah. No, I mean those are really some of those live recordings are really great too. And actually, talking about Charles Lloyd, that Forest Flower record, uh, Jack DeJohnette played with Bill Evans for about a year in the late '60s. He was a part of the trio.
oh
So
wow,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's pretty
very
cool.
cool.
But I love Bill Evans.
You
Bill
know,
Evans.
and some people know, some people don't, but Bill Evans played on Kind of Blue, the Miles Davis
Oh
record.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And Miles Davis took writing credits for some of his tunes on
Don't start me
there.
on that. Okay, next, please. Oh, yeah. Okay, yep. There we go.
Let's see. Let's see what I got here. You know what? Speaking of Bill Evans, this is kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys are going to be hip to this, but I like this record a lot. This classical music, but this actually really influenced a lot of. Since we're talking about jazz here, this
Uh-huh.
Bartok record, Concerto for Orchestra. This really influenced a lot of the jazz stuff. We were talking about Kind of Blue. I read Miles' autobiography, and apparently him and Bill Evans were really digging into Bartok and some of the French Impressionists and all that stuff. And I know classical music doesn't get the love in the vinyl world as much, but it's
It
just a
does
really great
not.
record.
Yeah.
And it sounds, if you ever see this record, it sounds incredible. And it's not your great grandfather's classical music. It's pretty hip. And yeah. So yeah, I was listening to this morning too.
Was that
Yeah.
original pressing?
This is not, but I do have a lot of the Living Stereo original pressings.
Yeah.
And they all sound great.
I
And
always
you can
encourage
find them in
everyone
the
to I always encourage everyone to listen to Living Stereo because they do sound nice.
Oh, they do. They definitely sound nice.
Yeah.
And they have some really. The thing I like about Living Stereo too is I'm not. I would not consider myself a classical. Like, I don't have too much knowledge in the classical music world. It's pretty daunting. But I will say the thing about Living Stereo that's so neat, especially since you could find them cheap at Goodwill or in the dollar bins, is you got to think those conductors were 80 years old in 1957. So you're hearing music done by some of the people that were alive when some of those pieces were composed. I mean, you got to think most people were born in the 19th century. So I don't know. I just think that's endlessly fascinating, and they don't make music like that anymore, and they don't conduct like that anymore. So
And to think that it was recorded in '57 and how good it sounds, and
Oh yeah,
just blows you
I
away.
know. Yeah, it sounds just as good as. It sounds better than some music being recorded today. I
Absolutely.
mean, it's
Even Benny Goodman in the '40s, some of those recordings are just like, how, you know.
oh for sure, yeah, and yeah, and the other thing too about like those '78 recordings, uh, things that were originally done in the '30s and '40s. It's like it's just hard to find a good mastering of them from good sources, but uh, you know it's funny. There's a few that are only on vinyl. The best transfers of those old '78 discs.
Mhm.
Like I have a Bessie Smith twofer from the '70s, and I've never heard that stuff sound better. So
Ooh, wow, that's
yeah,
cool.
I really want. There's a box set that just came out of Charlie Parker's 10 inches. Have you seen that? It came out this year.
I haven't. I
Yeah, and
haven't.
it's a reproduction of the original 10-inch records, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not too, believe it or not, as much as I'm into jazz, I'm not too familiar with Charlie Parker. So, I mean, I've
Mm.
heard his stuff, but I don't really know his
I've
stuff
learned from the
like that.
customers that a lot of people do enjoy the music of Charlie Parker. So it's something that I always look out for. If it comes in on a buyback, I'm like, "Oh, Charlie Parker! I better check this out." Yeah,
Sure, yeah.
yeah.
So,
And of course, it's getting ready to pop up, but he did have a nickname. It's getting ready to pop up. It's getting ready to pop up. Come on now. StreamYard is sometimes a little slow, but we're going to make it happen. And we'll have
I,
to give some record crate bonus points for this person for chiming in. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Dang it.
you
Oh,
get the point. What was Charlie Parker's nickname?
it's coming up. It's coming up. It's got to come up. It's got to come up. Uh, well, I should not have mentioned anything. Ah.
Oh man.
I'll pull the egg off my face, and then I'm going to go ahead and say it. But J.S. Bond, 1973, said "bird." So J.S. Bond, it shows up now. Shows up 3 times. J.S. Bond, congratulations! You earned 100 record crate bonus points. So make sure you write that down and keep track of how many bonus points you earn. Okay. But yeah, he is known as a bird, and there was a movie. There's a soundtrack that sometimes people overlook about Charlie Parker as the bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't seen that. I'd like to see that. I've, it's funny. We were talking about Miles Davis. He was a trip, to say the least. And he made some great music. but reading his autobiography really highlighted a lot of interesting little stories about Bird that I can't say on camera.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, good. Cheers, Paul Antonelli. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. We're having a vinyl discussion with our guest Tim. Thanks everyone for coming. I really appreciate it and hanging out with us. And I'm always looking for you as a guest for Coffee and Vinyl. Yes, this is number 28. Can you believe it, folks? It would have been more if I took a break during March and April and May when I was just like I had no idea what to do. But anyway, cheers back to you. Okay, there you go, Tim. Take it away.
All right, let's see what we got. Let's change it up a little bit just to blindside you a little bit. This Merle Haggard record I've also been to.
Absolutely.
Mama Tried, and this has to be one of my favorite country records easily.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds incredible. It actually sounds incredible. It blew my mind when I put it on the turntable.
Yeah,
I've always been a record, but I have no idea how good it sounded. So,
an old Capitol, you can't go wrong there. Nature Boy. Is that Merle? Is Merle Haggard natural? Is Merle Haggard Natural Boy J.S. Bond? Yeah.
he said Nature Boy.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that a nickname for Merle Haggard? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I have no. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. You know.
There you go.
I could tell you right now, though. You know.
Yeah.
Hey, Carson, how are you?
Cheers to Carson. Good morning, Carson.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in this morning. We appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
those old
great record, though.
Oh yeah.
Still on the shrink.
So apparently Miles Davis was Nature Boy. Oh, thanks. Yeah. About
that's
the only story I know about. Well, one story I know about Miles Davis is that he had a Ferrari, and it needed a clutch, and the guy who went and picked up the Ferrari and brought it to the repair shop was on Jay Leno one day, and he told the story, and it's just stupid, crazy stories like, yeah, I don't want to pay that much money, so bring it back. And I don't know. Apparently, Miles died in the song, and the car was never repaired, and somebody bought it, and then they repaired it, and now they drive around Miles. But there's photographs of him in Sicily, in the Ferrari. There you go. So I think J.S. Bond is telling us that there's a song called "Nature Boy" by Miles Davis. Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Back at you, Tim.
All right. Let's see. Oh, here's another. Going back to the, when I've been rebuilding my collection, I've actually been thinking about this recently. I need more non-jazz records. But I have a lot of jazz records. I'll get to that. But this is another company that I wanted to pull some stuff that you guys might not be too familiar with.
Sure.
Just to make it interesting. This is a record label out of France called Sam Records. Have you heard of this record label, Adam?
I have not.
And this is this record label is pretty hip. This record is Nathan Davis live in Paris. And this is a 3-record set. It's numbered. It has like a little OB strip and all that. But yeah, this is a really neat label because, like I said, it's based out of Paris, and it mainly focuses on jazz musicians in the 60s that I guess expatriates that went over to Paris and started playing over there. And it reissues these French records. And yeah, all analog mastering, and I mean same quality level as the Tone Poets and stuff like that. I mean, they sound just incredible. And yeah, it's just kind of cool because Nathan Davis is pretty underappreciated. Art Blakey actually wanted him in his band. Blue Note wanted him, but he said, no, I want to stay in Paris with my family. And yeah, he's a great player, very unique. So, and this is only on vinyl. You can't get this on digital. which is
Wow.
kind of a drag, but I guess that's their choice.
Well, very cool.
But yeah,
Yeah, I'll check that out. Yeah.
yeah. But Sam Records, they're really well done.
Well,
You
cool.
know.
Stephen Batner saying Duke Ellington. People love the Duke. Absolutely. Good music
Well,
there.
yeah, I love the Duke. Definitely. I mean, music is definitely would not be the same without Duke.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
can't say no to that. Have you, Adam? Have you heard? Speaking of the tone poets and stuff like that, have you heard they just reissued a Duke Ellington, Charles Mingus, and Max Roach trio album? Have you heard that album?
I have not. I don't think I
Uh,
have. I might need a visual. But
yeah,
yeah.
it's called Money Jungle, and imagine Duke Ellington playing kind of, I don't want to say free jazz, but it's pretty out there, and it's
Yeah.
you could hear Charlie Mingus kind of irritating Duke. You know what I mean? He's on
Really?
purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's kind of like an interesting generational thing. You have Duke, then you have the younger cats playing with Duke, and they're just real. They're pushing the old man. It's really something.
Yeah, absolutely. See, this might be more for Steven, but we can chime in too. Have you heard the Digital Duke album? I don't think
I
I.
have not. Digital Duke. I have not heard that. No.
I don't think I have. I know that in the '80s there was some jazz that was being reissued or compiled in reissues, and sometimes they would use the digital. So that could be it. But no, I haven't, Carson. You'll have to share that with us. Uh, Steven says I help out at Triangle Jazz School. He helped out at Triangle Jazz School one year, and them students are awesome. Let's see. A lot of the students at North Carolina Central are teaming up with some of the artists on um, Jamla, Jamla,
Mm.
Jamla label, which is Ninth Wonder's label, and they're going out on the road and performing live with some of the artists. And if you listen to the stuff on YouTube, it's just amazing how talented these college students are from Central, which is in Durham, North Carolina Central University. And we all know that that really cool cat did several years at Central, Donald Byrd, and he recorded some stuff when he was at Central, and he used some of the students there. And so Central has a really good music program with lots of good names.
Wow.
And of course, they have a great jazz station. Just can't pick it up down here, but thank God for online. And when you drive to Durham, you can turn the dial over there. Yeah, that's awesome,
Oh,
Stephen.
yeah, yeah.
So Carson says Digital Duke is from 1987. Thanks for sharing that, Carson. I'm going to
Yeah.
sneak over and get a visual for that. Yeah.
Digital Duke. Yeah. So is that a remix album or something? I wonder if contemporary people, I don't know if it's some sort of tribute or is it just, I don't
Yeah.
know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's on the GRP label, which is a wonderful label, but it's full of all sorts of people. Clark Terry. Um, I'm just highlighting the names I know. Lou Belson. Uh,
Mm.
David Cruzen. Oh, there we go. Dave Cruzen. Cruzen.
Mm.
Yeah, I think everything he touched just sounds phenomenal. Even those sappy love soundtracks, I think he did a good job with them. See if I get a visual on the cover, and yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Oh
I'll
yes,
check.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to show you an image, Tim. We've all seen this before, absolutely, when we're out crate digging. So one cool thing about this StreamYard, Tim, I can share the screen, and I'm going to do that right now. And so we can, there we go. There you go, Tim. I've had this before. I might even have it now, but
Oh,
good
okay.
will
Yeah,
do.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a really good. It's a really good one. I think I've played it before. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm gonna turn this off. There you go, Tim. Thank you. Okay, there you go. Yeah. All right, Tim, take it away.
That is it.
That is it.
All right. Here I am. Here I am with here I
Thanks
am
for
with
coming.
more jazz. This is actually fun. Art Blakey, Free for All, and this is
Oh
fun
my
because
stars. Yeah.
this is a 60s Blue Note, and it has
It's autographed.
but yeah, this is fun. Hey, I know everybody wants to see the label, so here it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, this is a great record. You know what? Funny enough, I like a variety of music. I know I'm just showing jazz. Everybody's thinking I just listen to jazz. I like all sorts of stuff, though. And if anyone's really into punk rock and they want to get into jazz, I would say this is the place to start. Yeah. I know that might sound funny, but yeah, this would be the place to start if you're into kind of punk rock or something like that, you know, because it is just, it has some major energy. Art Blakey screaming, you know what I mean? And he's
Absolutely. Yeah.
pounding the drum, you know, and Wayne Shorter is on this record, and Wayne Shorter wrote all of side one. And, you know, Wayne Shorter wrote a lot of Miles Davis, you know, Wayne Shorter's just an absolute genius, and so great that we have him still. And his new records are even good, you know, he's just a genius.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anytime you see the name Wayne Shorter, anytime you see the name Wayne Shorter, no matter what record it's on, it's like you better pay attention to it. It's going to be that good.
for sure. And it's funny because I actually saw, you know, during this whole pandemic and stuff, I've seen cool video chats with a lot of old jazz guys, Ron Carter, Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, you know, and they're doing what we're doing right now, and they're just hanging out, you know, and talking and playing. They're playing too. They have a lot of live streams that they've been doing, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see those cats, you know, in their 80s, still have the same enthusiasm for, you know, the music, and yeah, it's pretty inspiring to see them still kicking. So yeah, cheers to that.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oops, mistake. It's a mistake. So yeah, absolutely. Art Blakey, whew, master. Hey, Tim, I happen to notice that when you were holding up the Blue Note label, would you mind holding up those holding up again so people can see your inner sleeves that you use, and you can tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
I know that Tim's picked up some for me before, and probably will again. I'm
Yeah,
going to do the solo.
these are the MoFi Mobile Fidelity inner sleeves, and I'm very obsessive about my records. So if I see a paper sleeve, I automatically switch them out for these guys. Yeah, and it
Can we
kind of
see
becomes an
that?
OCD, you know. And yeah,
Can
I
we see
mean it's right
the
paper, so it's scratch, and yeah.
Would you mind showing the back of the sleeve?
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, rice paper inside there? Okay, cool. Which gives a little bit of stiffness, if you would.
It does.
And
It's not flimsy.
it's very cool. Now, Steve. Tim, once you switch it out, do you keep the original inner sleeve?
It depends. It depends. If I think it's interesting in any way, I do. Like if it's an original Blue Note, you know, hype inner sleeve with all the album covers and stuff, I
Yeah.
will. But to be honest, if it's just a plain inner that's all brown from, you know, tobacco smoke and, you know, whatever, nah, I usually, this might be sacrilegious to some of the crazier collectors, but nah, I sometimes just toss it, you know. I think it's kind of musty, you know.
That's totally cool. I just asked because some people will keep it, and some people will recycle it, and some people will repurpose it. So there we go. Yeah. Hey, Carson tells us that the Duke Ellington Orchestra Digital Duke it's got digital plaques all over the cover. Sounds really nice. 32 track full digital recording. Some great stuff. Thanks for sharing that, Carson. We'll have to check it out. but those Tim is exactly right. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying to Carson, in the vinyl world, I love vinyl. I love vinyl more than anything as far as music listening. But digital recording is not the devil. I mean, there's some good digital stuff that sounds really great. So
Yeah, absolutely.
just to
And
highlight.
if you can pick up a CD for $3 until you find the vinyl and you can enjoy listening to it, yeah. And CDs do sound much better than MP3s, folks. So yeah, there you go.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
I'm
I have a
so
lot of
sorry.
CDs.
I'm so sorry for talking over you, Tim. I am so sorry.
No, you absolutely. You're fine. I mean, we have a lot to say.
We did. Where can I get those sleeves? I sell them, Stephen. Absolutely. I don't always have them in stock, but I order them and I sell them. Prior to the pandemic, I would always try to keep some in stock, not only the inner sleeves, but the outer sleeves. And we do have a lot to say, Tim. We could do this over the course of weeks and barely get our toe in the water because, uh, yeah, music is so much fun. So is vinyl. Yeah.
It is. And also, Stephen, about those sleeves, I sound like I sound like an ad for Mobile Fidelity inner sleeves, but it's one of those things. And maybe I'm weird. I don't know. But in vinyl, for me, obviously the music is first, right? The music's first, but to me, feeling a nice sturdy jacket, you know what I mean, and feeling a nice inner sleeve and stuff, it's just. I don't know. It gets to the point where, Stephen, once you have one of those inner sleeves, all of your records will have to have those inner sleeves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things for me that it makes it so much easier, and your records will last, without getting surface scratches, and yeah, it's addicting.
And I always suggest when you get your new inner sleeves, make sure you clean your records, then pop them in there, and then
Yeah, sure.
be sure to to properly dust your records between plays, and also keep your stylus clean. Uh, JS Bond, hey, have to run. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Be safe, and look forward to hanging out with you soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
So there you go.
Yeah. And about that too, if anybody wants to, something I found out. Wait a minute, I'll be right back.
He'll be right back.
Yeah, something I found out talking about dusting your records. These old school disc washers are the old school ones are really nice. I mean, as far as just getting dust off your records, the newer ones I've seen are a little. They don't really trap much dust, But these old ones, if you could find these, they're still around. Yeah, they're pretty great.
And I'm going to chime in on that, Tim. The new ones are made by RCA, and they're as light as a feather, and they're plastic. The one you have, if you can show it again, I'm going to highlight you.
Yeah.
That is wood, folks, and it's got there. And then if you look on the other end, there's a cavity to put your storage in there. Do you have the drops and the brush?
I ran out of the drops a long time ago, but yeah.
So
I just
do you have the empty bottle?
Say again.
The empty bottle of the drops.
Yeah, I think that you could get them. I haven't looked in a while.
Yeah.
I had the original drop from the 80s. So yeah.
Well, I'll show it one day, folks. But the little cavity, you would slide you would hold it up like it's like a bar soap, and then you would slide in the drops, and then you would slide in a brush, and the brush held the drops in. And what was that brush? But the brush was made to clean the disc washer, and so it's not corduroy; it's more felt, but it kind of has. The pattern looks kind of like corduroy. So if you buy one used, make sure it's not worn out, because it's not fun getting that. Yeah, absolutely.
If you get one in good shape, though, yeah, they're great.
They are. I kind of hate those thin little plastic Japanese sleeves that crumble up all the time. They're bad for putting them in straight into the jacket. It's bad for, but it's bad but great for putting them inside paper sleeves. Yeah. So, Carson, in the 80s, a lot of the records came with a plastic inner sleeve. Crystallis is the worst. I mean, whenever I see
Yeah,
a Crystallis, I'm like, before I take it out immediately because they just crumble and they fall to the
yeah.
floor. But I'm not a fan of those plastic inner sleeves either because you got to put them in the jacket and they just want to bunch up. And yeah, so I'm with you there. I just don't like them. I feel like sometimes they would mark the surface of the vinyl also more than paper. And another reason to use the inner sleeves like Tim spoke about, there's less chance of marking the vinyl when you would put it in and out of the inner sleeve.
And also, they do not, Carson, if you're confusing the two, the MoFi inner sleeves, like Adam and I were saying, they have that backing on the back that stiffens it up a little bit,
Hmm.
so it doesn't crumple, really.
Yeah.
It's pretty sturdy and nice. It's not like those old school Crystallis type inner sleeves that are plastic.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool. All right. Thanks for sharing that. So yeah, Carson, lots of cool things with records, and I'm still learning every day. So there you go, sir. Oh, I'm
oh
sure you
man,
probably have something in there that we both enjoy listening to tremendously.
were you
Yeah.
talking about my stack?
Yeah.
Huh.
You
We
know.
might. We might. I don't know. You're a hard man to gauge.
Well, it seems like every
Yeah.
time we get together, we end up talking about a band that we both enjoy that had one of the
And
best
yeah,
female
the big
singers in it.
my collection is uh I'm trying to rebuild it. I don't know if you like this record or not, but this is a record I was getting into, the Kinks. You're talking about
Oh
the
yeah,
Kinks?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, I love that record.
it's a great record. Also, I don't know if you're familiar with this pressing of it, but in the early 80s, uh, this is a 1980 pressing of this record, and I'll show you guys the label. These are really hip because this is German pressing, and if you see
Ooh,
these in the wild, they're presumably cut from the original UK tapes in mono. So yeah, these sound really good, and they're cut from the tapes.
wow.
Yeah, this is a great show. Yeah, sunny afternoon. Everybody knows that too. But yeah, just a great record. Yesterday, I tuned into the stream and I heard Adam talking about the Kinks, I think. And yeah, I've been in a Kinks mood, so I thought I'd show this.
Absolutely.
This is a
I have a domestic copy of that, and it's probably in VG condition, but I don't care. I still have it, and I like it. Steven has a question for you, Tim.
what names like Living Stereo? What other ones I need to look for? So, Steven, are you saying good performances in the Living Stereo series, or are you saying other classical records that are really good quality? Because
Yeah,
I could actually answer both questions. I really like classical music.
yeah, yeah.
you know.
I will say that there's tons and tons and tons and tons of Living Stereo, and
Oh yeah, I have another one too.
but there's some Living Stereo that I don't mean to be rude, but who wants to listen to it?
Oh yeah,
So just don't pick up
lounge
Living
music.
Stereo just because it's Living Stereo. Pick it up because it's something that you would enjoy. And I'm sorry. Would you
Oh,
show that again?
this is yeah. The thing about Living Stereo is Adam's completely right. There's some lounge music and stuff that's just not very hip on Living Stereo. But the big names on Living Stereo that you cannot go wrong with are you see the name right there. Oh, sorry, Mon. What is that? It's Monchateau. It's French. But the big names on Living Stereo that you must have if you have any interest in getting into classical music: is the Boston Symphony. It was really good with Charles Monk and Pierre Manchotto. Sorry if I'm butchering that. And Fritz Reiner with the Chicago Symphony. And yeah. And so Adam's absolutely right. Do it for the performances first and foremost, and don't just see Living Stereo and pick it up. But, you know, for me, I have a big interest, especially in 20th century classical music. And here's a cool insert. You know, we love these things, but there's Pierre. He looks very cool.
He does look cool. Don't
and he
mess
has a
up
nice
or
wall.
hit into with that baton.
But yeah. So, but yeah, definitely pick up Living Stereo for the performance. But yeah, honestly, anything with Fritz Reiner, pick it up. Anything with Fritz Reiner, pick it up. He was one of the best. And the Bartok record I showed, he was actually Bartok's pupil, Adam.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying about the Living Stereo stuff. The good Living Stereo stuff is there's people playing these pieces today. But the thing that's so amazing about that era is you still had some of the giants that were actually taught by the composers. You know what I mean? Conducting, like, for example, this Stravinsky that I just showed. This is the conductor that premiered The Rite of Spring in 1913. Same guy.
Wow.
And he died shortly after. So.
Thank you, Carol. Have a wonderful day. We'll catch up soon. Other classical he was asking about. And I was also going to say with the Living Stereo, yeah. So yeah, Stephen, you're going to find tons of it. Not to say it's not good music. It's just what is popular, what's cool to listen to. And also, if you think about folks back in 1957, 58, the population of the world, there was more people listening to classical music versus today. And there were people who were not so many, but a few people were getting into hi-fi, and it's like you could buy the RCA release for, I don't know, $1.88, but for $4.88 you could buy the Living Stereo release, and it's the same album, but it's just with a different treatment. And so people were picking up Empire turntables and ELACs and stuff like that, and they were building a hi-fi system. Just think about Frank Sinatra and maybe Hugh Hefner. You know, they could afford to have a hi-fi system where a lot of people were just getting a suitcase that they set on top of a table, or they were getting a big piece of furniture and putting in their living room. And so listening to music at home was a lot different in 1958 than it is in 2018. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing too is that it's amazing that records made. Oh wow, Carson, that's cool. But the thing that's beautiful about the whole thing is a record that is over 60 years old on a new sound system sounds amazing. You know what I mean? I mean that there's just something to that. It's magical. But Stephen, to answer your question, talking about other classical to look out for, I got into this a few years ago because, I mean, just like Adam was saying, people don't ignore classical in the bins. I mean, you go to record stores, you see them $1.99, you know, all over the place. These are the labels that you need to look out for. With good performances, with conductors that are good and composers that are good. Mercury, back in the 50s, with their Living Presence series. Those records are really great. They're glossy and, you know, they sound really good. The London or the Decca, the London Bluebacks, you know, and you'll tell because on the back of the record, it's blue. You know what I mean? I don't have one right now, but on the back of the record, it's blue. And so those are really, that's the holy trinity of, I guess, for lack of a better term, audiophile classical music, you know. And they have just great performances and they're great sounding. And also, there's some really good reissues of those classic records that sound really good. So yeah, especially the Decca ones. But classical music's very underappreciated, so definitely be on the lookout for that. And yeah, it's really hip because when you get into classical music, you'd be surprised how much your favorite artists were influenced by that music. And you could kind of hear, once you get hip to the rhythm, same with jazz, once you kind of get hip to the folk songs and the compositions and stuff like that, you kind of get hip to what they're doing. And yeah, it unloads new worlds, you know.
A couple of things I'm sure Stephen is true with you, Tim. Is like you're out and about and you're digging and you see something that just totally looks interesting, and it's like it just
Yeah,
looks so interesting. It's going to be the best cereal I've ever eaten, and you take it home and
yeah,
play it. And sometimes it's a treasure. Sometimes it's say, let's pass it on to someone else. The other thing, Stephen, I can buy all the cool classical records in Raleigh and I can have them at the shop. But unless I have an audience, they're going to sit there. And
yeah,
there's a story that there's a little saying that says if it's touched air, the classical buyers don't want to buy it. And in other words, they just want to find the most pristine copies of records so that it sounds the best. And I'm not a classical music fan, but I can appreciate the fact you pop it on and you listen to it and you're like, are they in the next room? That kind of thing. It's just amazing.
yeah. It is. And if I lived closer to the crate, I would be there often, digging in the classical section that nobody. I'd go in there and I'd have 10, 10 records and take them because that's something I'm really trying to get more into. I have one thing on that note, since we're talking about that, I want to show as well. That might be of interest to some people. Have you heard of this book, Adam? I've been reading this book. The Rest Is Noise.
I'm
By
sorry.
Alex Ross.
The Rest Is Noise. Listen to the 20th century. I have not.
This is a great book. I would even tell you maybe to check it out if you have time, because Alex Ross, he's a big fan of stuff like Sonic Youth. You know what I mean? More of 80s kind of alternative stuff and some of the punk rock stuff. But he did not listen to anything but classical music until he was 20 years old, and he got turned on to rock through those underground 80s bands. And he basically explains, how sometimes classical music feels out of reach. It doesn't feel real. You know what I mean? As opposed to like a rock star, like I don't know, like a Neil Young or the Kinks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's really these people as people, and really kind of telling you about the impact and the context of these compositions, like Shostakovich. He's talking about how Stalin in Russia, how his compositions basically, I guess, stuck it to the man, just really, really puts it together. Really good read. If you ever see that at a bookstore or, yeah. So even if you're not necessarily a fan, it just, it just opens you up, opens your mind up a little bit, So.
Very cool. I'll be on the lookout
Read.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Stephen would say he grew up in a family where they put those records on, never knew the history of it. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like I said, I'm learning every day, Stephen. Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's something that I learned recently, or I've been learning about recently. And it's just, like I said, my journey with music has, I started off, believe it or not, Adam, I don't think you know this, but we were talking yesterday about metal.
Yeah.
My journey into music was through metal, actually.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I came through music through the metal world. You know what I mean? And yeah, so the way I see it is every genre that I dig into, I'm opening up doors to appreciate other forms of music. So if I listen to classical music, I have a new appreciation for metal music. If I listen to jazz, I have a new appreciation for rock music. And it kind of just, it keeps it interesting. And it's kind of like solving a puzzle to me. You're kind of knocking away at the music. So that's how I look at music.
And some of the most popular rock and roll music, there's a lot of classical in it. I mean, just think about Pink Floyd. There's tons of classical in that in Pink Floyd. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That is awesome, Tim. Good way to look at it.
Yeah, so that's how I see it. I have a few more things here if you're interested in looking at them.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, so this is a record that's not jazz. Then I have a few. Oh, favorite John Denver track? Country Roads Take Me Home, of course,
Absolutely.
Carson.
Absolutely.
I mean, what other song makes you feel so nostalgic, even if you have no nostalgic for Country Roads?
There you go.
But yeah, that's a great tune. Harry Nilsson. How do you feel about Harry Nilsson, Adam?
I like him. He's
Are you a
very
fan?
talented. Wonderful, wonderful songwriter. Not as known as a lot of people, but hey, he was the guy that John Lennon went and partied with in California.
Yeah, sure. And funny that we're talking about the Beatles with him because this record, Harry, came out in 1969, and to me, he does a cover of Mother Nature's Son by the Beatles on here, and to me, it's actually better than the original. Yeah, and I'm really starting to think that with the White Album, which to be honest, it's probably my favorite Beatles record. I just love how weird and eclectic it is. I feel like they were listening to a lot of Harry Nilsson while they were making that record.
Oh, that's
His early
awesome.
record. Yeah. So this is a
Absolutely.
it's a great record though. I mean, he has a great voice.
He does, and he's so. He was involved in a lot of things that weren't necessarily in the mainstream, not in the public eye, but he did a lot of stuff in the background,
Yeah.
and writing songs that other people recorded. So it's just really cool. Carson was saying
Yeah.
classical in all prog. Like, yes.
Oh, for sure. And Carson, I love prog. I love Zappa, and I love King Crimson, and stuff like that. Yes is cool. I'm more choosy with Yes. I like their early records, but absolutely, yeah. Prague is great. I like Prague quite a bit, but some of it can be a little cheesy. But I definitely do appreciate Prague, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Good morning, Stephen. Cheers.
Hey, Steven, how are you doing? It's two biggest. Yeah, for sure. What Without You, right? Without You, and I don't know the other one. I do. Have you ever seen the movie Head, Adam? The Monkeys movie?
Yes, I have. Once.
That's a trip. That's a trip. It's a
But ask
trip.
me how many times I played the soundtrack.
The soundtrack is cool.
Yeah, I
And
love the soundtrack.
speaking of Frank Zappa makes a cameo in there, and Harry Nilsson. There's a Harry Nilsson song called "Daddy's Song," and that's on the soundtrack of Head. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. You said once, once.
Yeah, I watched
You should watch it.
I watched it once. I was like, Everybody's Talking was written by Fred Neil. That's a good song. Me and My Arrow is my favorite Nilsson song.
Oh yeah, me and My Arrow.
I just
the minute I heard, yeah,
quote.
You know those songs. It's funny you mention that because those songs because let's be honest, getting really into music's one of those things for me at least where I might appreciate something on first listen, but I'm not really. I have to listen to it a few more times. But a song like Me and My Arrow is one of those tunes for me that I just felt from the minute I heard it. I was like, I love it, And to me, it's pretty rare. That's pretty rare to just on first listen, not even done with the song, say, man, I love this music, So
I remember those first listens, and I had to hop in the car and go to the record store so I could have a copy myself of certain things. Absolutely. I mean,
I would love a copy of that record. I don't have it. I think it's called The Point.
Yeah.
The Point. Yeah, I love that record. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. I also wanted to show this because I was on the Coffee and Vinyl last week when we set this up, actually.
Yeah.
And who was talking about this, Adam?
Donald, Vinyl Champion Donald.
Yeah, Vinyl Champion Donald was talking about this. And this is one of the new Tone Poet reissues. Look at how beautiful that is. Sorry, I'm trying to get this in a nice frame. But yeah, session photos. This record, this is a special record, a special jazz vocal record, because you got to think about this was recorded in 1954 to 1956. And the thing about Chet Baker, he's definitely an acquired taste. but this is the first time they went back to the original master tapes since the 50s. And it sounds reference. I mean, it's a beautiful sounding record. But beyond what it sounds like, I think this record is so important because you know how back then a lot of the singers, they're very macho. You know what I mean? You hear Frank and he's like, you know, oh, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so Chet has a very, I don't want to say a feminine touch, but he just has this sensitivity that a lot of the male singers were too macho to tap into.
That's
And
a wonderful way to say it. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of people made fun of him and gave him a lot of made fun of him and this and that. But it's just listening to this music. There's a song on here called oh man, "The Thrill Is Gone." Have you heard that song, Adam?
I have. I had some of the records with Chet singing, so yes, I have. Yeah. I
Yeah,
can't
and
think
that
of
song
everything
is just, yeah, definitely an acquired taste. But I mean, he definitely, like those macho singers I'm talking about. They're talking about something, but they're kind of away from it. You know what I mean? They're kind of looking at the situation. Whereas I feel like when Chet sings, he feels it. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but it's just you feel as if he is telling you, the thrill is gone, and it's just yeah. And listening to it on that pressing, I mean, it's chill-inducing sometimes, especially knowing the tragic story of Mr. Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
that's good. That's a really good record. Definitely. And yes, Carson, I agree. I'm a huge Zappa fan, and I have all of his records. I really do. I have every single one. Zappa, and it's funny, we were talking about metal, Adam. Zappa is the guy that made me look more far out into music, and he made me to kind of discover classical music and jazz and, stuff like that, getting more into funk. And yeah. And then I started listening to more punk rock stuff into like television and stuff like that, and magazine and stuff like that. And then I started getting into, like you said, we're just opening up doors through record collecting. And then I got into psych, and yeah, so a lot of fun there. But yeah, Carson, I'm a big Zappa fan. I have all of his records just about, even his weird classical records and his weird electronic records. And yeah, a lot of them are on CD, but I have probably 25 of his vinyl records too.
That's awesome.
So yeah, definitely, some of his stuff though, Carson, as a huge Zappa fan, he sells himself short sometimes with the humor that's not very funny to me. You know what I mean? But he was a genius. I mean, a self-taught composer. But sometimes I just want to say, Frank, you're so talented. Why are you selling yourself short by, I don't know, by just potty humor,
Yeah.
But I don't know. So it's kind of a drag, Mr. Zappa, but I still love you.
There's still some interviews online, but I think it was in the 80s that Frank did a lot of like Sunday night interviews, and he
Yeah.
shared things about the world and the United States and some political things. And some of those interviews are just amazing. But I think a local cat, Alan Handelman, ended up befriending Frank and had him on his show for a long time. And whew, it was awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah, no,
those,
Frank was a yeah, Steven, yeah. I mean, you have to, you know what I mean? I always say there's something I like in every genre. For me, that's how I feel. There's at least one record I like in every genre. I'm sure there's a polka record out there that I could get down with. I mean,
good thought there, Tim. There's one record I like in every genre. That is awesome.
yeah, I'd say so. But yeah, Frank is Frank was definitely a smart guy. Also, a tip to all you vinyl champions out there: the new Hot Rats, which is a great record. I don't know if you like that record, Adam, but that's a great record. Uh,
Well,
even
Hot Rats would be other than Valley Girl, which is my favorite Zappa song. Hot Rats is the album that I own. I own a copy of Hot Rats, and so
sure,
there's just something about that record. Every time I play it, it's captivating for me.
it is. It is. And wait a minute. Wait a minute. I want to show you my copy because rebuilding this, I just got this copy of this Hot Rats, and it's actually on pink vinyl. And the cool thing about this copy and the current reissue for all you people out there keeping tabs at home is it's cut from the same master as the Classic Records version. And the Classic Records version on eBay goes for hundreds of dollars. And you could just get the reissue for $20 to $25. And it's the same exact cut. So, yeah.
What label is that?
Say again?
What label is the one you just showed?
It's the Zappa label, the new reissues. The new Zappa reissues are all done from the analog tape, and they sound incredible. So yeah.
I couldn't see that, Tim. What is the label again?
It's just Zappa
Who
Records.
put that out? Zappa Records?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it's actually
Zappa Records.
Yeah, Universal kind of owns the catalog now, so yeah.
Universal.
It's pretty. And then of course you get the cool picture of Frank on the label. So,
That's
but
awesome.
that's an entry point into Frank, I'd say.
Yeah, I that record every time I'm just like, hey, we probably have time for a couple more records, and then we all can get back to crate digging, looking for the next record.
So I have this just came out. This is a Blue Note 80. Yeah, you're familiar with the Blue Note 80s, Adam.
I am. Yeah.
All done from the. This was one of the last lot to come out, and this is a great record. Larry Young, Into Something, and it has Grant Green, Sam Rivers, and Elvin Jones. Elvin Jones, of course, played Coltrane. Grant Green, he was kind of like the guitar player on most of the Blue Notes, that had guitar. And Sam Rivers was kind of a more avant-garde sax player. He played with all sorts of people. He even auditioned to be in Miles Davis's quintet with Wayne Shorter. He was about to get the job rather than Wayne, but Miles thought he was too far out, so he didn't want him. But anyway, this is a really great record.
Yeah, you cut out for a second. You said that Blue Note 80 are all cut from the. Did you say the analog tapes?
Yeah. They're so sound-wise, they are the same quality, and they're cut from the same mastering engineer of the Tone Poet series and the Music Matters series. So they're the same quality sounding record. The only difference is they're a little flimsier jackets, I mean, they're just a little flimsier. They're not glossy and all that, but I mean, they sound the same as the Tone Poet, so.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, the thing about Larry Young that I like so much is organ jazz, right, Adam? Like organ jazz can sound, to me anyway, it can start sounding very samey. It's like, okay, they're going on a funky vamp, and they're walking, and it just sounds the same. Larry Young is easily my favorite jazz organ player. He plays a lot of modal stuff. He plays far out. He kind of plays in. He's funky, and he just has a complete command over the organ. And he does not sound like Jimmy Smith. Nothing against Jimmy Smith, but he's very much keeping up with the players. I mean, that's a pretty hot lineup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's keeping up with these guys. And this record's just great. So yeah. And this is $20. It's $23 or something like this. So getting into Blue Note, I would definitely recommend the Blue Note 80 series.
Yeah, absolutely. The price is phenomenal. But Blue Note 80 and Tone Poet, folks, anytime you see one of those, whether you're not familiar with the artist, it's going to be a good listen. Um,
Yeah.
Almost anytime you see a Blue Note record, if you can pick it up, please do, even if it's just in G condition visually, because they typically sound better. I've seen Blue Notes that it's like they ran over by a Mack truck, but they sound great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very true. Very true. Yeah. And actually, to close it out, since we just have time for a couple more, this is a tone poet of a Herbie Everybody's familiar with Herbie Hancock, whether you like jazz or not. And this is a really underrated Herbie Hancock album called The Prisoner. And I just love the cover of this. You know what I mean? It's very
Yeah.
late 60s. And it says a lot, you know? But this is a group of how many? One, two, three, four, five. It's a sextet. And it has my favorite tenor player, Joe Henderson. Yeah, I love Joe Henderson. And this is a tribute to Martin Luther King after he was assassinated, this record. And yeah, it's full of passion and just great playing. And a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, they're stuck on that late 50s, early 60s Blue Note stuff. But really, as jazz fans, people need to branch out. There's so much good stuff in the late 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and today. So yeah, if you see this one, pick it up because it's a great record. And original pressings don't go for that much because, like I said, it's not part of that classic, Blue Note era.
Yeah.
This is a great record. It's pretty far out.
And folks, even 80s Blue Notes, a lot of it sounds really good.
For sure. They're reissuing some 80s in the Tone Poet series. They reissued Joe Henderson at the Village Vanguard. That's one of my absolute favorite Tone Poets. And it's a trio. And it's something. It's something.
It's amazing to find the 50s Blue Notes that are original, that could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, which is great. But some of the 60s reissues of the same or repressings of the same records are from the same stamper, so they sound just as good. So folks, I always encourage everybody to build a listening library rather than have a collection of records, because it's all about listening to it, folks. Yeah.
It is, yeah. If you have it standing up there collecting dust.
While you get your last record, Carson has a question for you. What do you have for Rush records, Tim?
Carson, I saw Rush live in 2010. And it was a really fun show. I don't have any Rush records currently because, like I said, I sold my collection off in December and I've been slowly building it back up. But Rush for me now, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan, but I really have an affinity for Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures. I think those two records are really great. I really like the kind of new wavy Rush. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I'm into. I like they're more concise. They're still proggy, but some of the campiness is, and I like some of that too, but you know how it goes, Adam. It's like sometimes
I'm real quick to admit that I like Synthesizer Rush.
Yeah. I like, that's what I'm saying. Like some of the 70s stuff I'm not as hip on. So, but no, Rush is cool. Rush is cool. They were great live in 2010 when I went to see them. That was a great show. The energy, I went to Baltimore to see them. The energy in that place was off the charts, but it's a shame because all their modern stuff is mastered so loud that you just can't listen to it, so I'm kind of bummed that there's not a good record of the show I saw,
Oh yeah,
because it's just brick walled to death,
yeah,
I mean, it's not fun. It hurts your ears. So, but hey, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. But I guess let me get one more record, and
sure.
Let's see what we got. Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to you being a guest on Coffee and Vinyl soon. So please reach out. And of course, I'm going to ask Tim to come back another day and hang out with us another morning and have some coffee and talk about vinyl. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to come as much as I can because this is a lot of fun. But
Absolutely.
okay, so I'm cheating, Adam. I'm cheating. I'm sorry. I had to show 2 more records. I just want to show this one because this was a recent find during the pandemic. It was an Aretha mono
Oh, yeah.
pressing original of this record. I found this for $3 sealed. But guess what I did? I don't believe in sealed records, so you best
You
believe I
opened it.
cracked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this because usually these mono records are just completely beat. You know? And yeah, this is great.
Good find.
I just wanted to show that because I didn't tell you about that. But yeah, that was a find. I really like that. But this is another record I was listening to. This is a UK Porky pressing and Fairport Convention. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really like Richard Thompson a lot. I think he's a very underrated guitar player.
Yeah.
And this is a UK pressing. I don't even know how I found this, but this is a beautiful label. One of my favorites.
I love that label too. Yeah.
Island.
That was a good find.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, but this is a great record. And yeah, like I said, I love Richard Thompson, and Sandy Denny had just a beautiful voice. You know.
Yeah. Oh, so Gul stops by. He's from South America. Hey, good morning. Cheers. Gulherm. He gave me a suggestion of some Brazilian music to listen to, and I did on YouTube. Thank you so much for that suggestion. Tim, what do you think about cleaning a record with wood glue for an old record?
I have flirted with that, but I don't think I'd do it now. You know, I don't know. To me, I'm sure that it would be fine, but for me, I don't know. I'm more comfortable now with if I don't have a record cleaner machine, I'm more comfortable with cleaning it with distilled water and soap. You know, I mean, like really mild soap, and yeah, that's how I would do it. But I'm a little crazy,
That's really cool. I think the wood glue is wonderful for 78s for shellac records, and which is super cool. And I've never done it personally. I've watched lots of things on YouTube, and I've had customers that would do it and take photographs. And one person says, "I'm still picking this glue out of this record." So that's fun, and I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad it's not me, but I've seen some people have success of just pulling it off and having one. And I even watched a YouTube video where somebody did that, and they actually put the glue on the turntable, the actual glue, and they played that, and that was interesting. Yeah, so that was really interesting. Yeah.
And also, Adam, you're talking about Brazilian music, right?
Yeah, this was oh, help me out here, Gul. It was more contemporary. There was a lot of funk in there, a lot of upbeat sounds, some fat bass, and it was just amazing. And I would have to look at my history to see who the artist was, but I think it was Tim somebody. Oh,
Tim Maya.
Tim Maya.
There is so much. I was just gonna say because I really like the early '70s Brazilian stuff. Novos Bueno. I could be butchering the names, but Arthur Veracai is really good. Have you heard that record, Adam?
Mm-mm.
Arthur Veracai.
She's gone. Yeah.
But yeah, the Brazilian music in the early '70s. There's great records. I think they call it Tropicala music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like psychedelic and it's funky and yeah, there's just so many treasures in Brazil in the '70s. So yeah.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Tim is contemporary, or what I listened to was 10 years or less old, but
I know that he was in the 70s too, but maybe he's making music still.
okay, yeah. Uh, Gilberto, absolutely familiar with that.
Yeah,
Gil,
George Ben, Jorge Ben. Yeah, all those artists are
that was
great.
70s. Oh wow, it was
Yeah,
so cool, but yet so now. So yeah, that's why I thought it was now. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, good stuff. I mean, good stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
far out.
Guilherme, Guilherme. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name, but I would. Do you mind if I call you GL? Do you mind? I would love to have you be on Coffee and Vinyl with me one morning. I think you're the same time as us. Yeah, well, depends on where you are, but yeah. So yeah. Wow, Tim, so much information to process. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, and thanks for hanging out with us for Coffee and Vinyl. I really appreciate it. And yes, let's get this on the calendar soon. And
For
cool
sure,
thing.
I'd love to come back. This was a lot of fun, and no one else wants to hear what I have to say in my normal life. So, so I had a lot of fun hanging out, and yeah.
In your normal life, do you play music during the day at work?
So yeah, we actually I am a barber for everybody out there watching, and I work at a shop called the Chop Shop in New Bern. We're in the eastern part of North Carolina, near the beach, and we have a playlist. We have a Chop Shop playlist, and all the barbers kind of get together and put their songs. I actually put some of that Brazilian music on the playlist from the '70s that I really like. Uh, and just it's very eclectic. We have modern day. I don't know. We have all sorts of stuff. We have stuff I don't like. Stuff that I put on there, stuff that they put on there. So we do, but a lot of the stuff I listen to at home, no one would want to listen to. The masses would not want to listen to at the barbershop. So
I hear you.
you know,
Well,
that's
it's
just
good
how
to
it
throw
goes,
something in there. It's good to throw something in the mix so they can
for
listen
sure.
to it. So that's awesome. Yeah. 10 past in 98. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, folks. I'm gonna take off. Try to get some things happening here.
Hey,
Oh, and cool things like that. Tim, have a wonderful day and keep those records spinning. Everybody, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And
good beer.
hopefully tomorrow morning, 8:30, I'll be here and cool things like that. So everybody, take care. I appreciate you stopping by. Hang on, Tim, and we can hang out in the green room for a couple minutes before we say goodbye. All
All
right.
right, yeah.
Thanks.